And will yay, the game's showing up too. Alright. Hey there everyone, and welcome back to Corey Loses, where today we are finally continuing our Phoenix Rising playthrough. We started this on stream on Twitch about 2 weeks ago, and I expected to be able to get back to it after 2.2 was released, but then we had to delay and bad things happened. But we are finally back now, and joining me, just like last time, is my spiritual guide through all this, Evil Bob the Bob, who is, in addition to being my spiritual guide, one of the developers of Phoenix Rising. So he's going to be telling us how to not die a horrible death.
Probably, but I'll probably still watch you die a horrible death anyway.
Well, that's not very nice of you, is it?
Tactical battle imminent.
Alright, so we've got, right off the bat here, we've got a battle between our troopers in space and an ISD, which I assume we're going to win handily. Where's Kestis? Up here?
Kestis
Okay.
mine is all the way up in, yeah.
Alright, I think I do need to turn this down a little bit. So let me know in the chat if there's a huge volume difference between myself and Bob, but I think it should be okay. I'm going to auto-resolve this, just because that probably wasn't going to do much for me. I'm going to drop these guys onto the ground. These are space units, though, so I can't do that. And I believe we were going to be focusing over here. I don't think this is actually paused. There we go. We are going to be focusing over here. I would like to potentially take Raxus. I don't know if that's a good idea with our fleet right now, but we do have space over Renvar held, not captured. So we can also try to take Column X and Renvar. I believe we decided in the last one as well that all this stuff from Renvar was probably moved over to Corfir, so I think that's what we'll start with. So if anyone also has any questions throughout this this episode, we're going to be recording 2 episodes today, and then that's going to be going up, the VODs for that, tomorrow and Monday. So if anyone would like to ask questions for Bob, I'll read them out, and if he notices them in the chat, he can call them out as well.
Yeah, so Jeffrey asks why the rebels are currently blue in Phoenix Rising, and that was a decision we made, well, probably years ago now, when we moved to developing 1.3, which now has become 2.0 because there's been so many changes. And since so many people have trouble with it, I'm probably going to be swapping it back, so rebels are red and Empire is blue, because people complain a lot about it, and I don't necessarily completely disagree with them, so that's probably going to change back. Brandon, this mod actually started basically almost immediately after the release of Empire at War, so it significantly predates the Rebels TV series. Taking all credit for that, of course.
Right. So are you getting paid like royalty checks or something? Or is that all going...
Yes, Disney sends me royalty checks.
Well, would that go to you or Chandler?
Well, that's, yeah.
There you go. So maybe he's just been hoarding it all on you. That's what I do.
I mean, it's possible.
Mod leader prerogative. It will take a little bit for the battles to actually load, because I am also using a different version of the game. But right before this, Bob, I don't know if you want to say anything about it, but there was something you were telling me that I don't know if it's public knowledge yet, or if you're holding that super secret announcement. So
I was going to give you the exclusive. I say exclusive. It's already been technically partially announced in your Discord. So I'm planning on transitioning the demo into a public beta release for Phoenix Rising, which will include all of the galactic conquests that we currently have playable, and the full skirmish set and so on that's already available in the demo, and a few other updates such as filters, which are a pretty big deal. They're going to allow you to hide things like research, capital ships, and so on from the build bar, so you can actually build everything at once, hopefully.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea that was probably implemented by a very smart team before or something, but you know.
Yeah, no, I hear Nomada Firefox.
Oh my god. I hate you. Yeah, so right now if you look, actually I forgot to put it in the description, but Bob can drop it in the chat every so often now, but the workshop link, it's currently a demo for the Operation Skyhook campaign, which is what we're playing right now. But the That's the one that's going to be updated, so if you guys want to check that out, you should be getting some new Galactic Conquest content, and like any beta, you should expect some issues at the start, but I think the base functions in Phoenix Rising tend to be fairly well fleshed out, so it would be more small weirdness, I would assume, than any significantly game-breaking issues. A lot of the balance in the mod, someone was asking a little bit before, is very well handled. It's one of the things that the mod focuses most on is getting the right stats for everything. So they all tend to be pretty consistently balanced against each other. The costs tend to be reflective of their capabilities, same with their pop cap, which I understand is a tool that some people use in order to keep the ships on the field limited, actually, and is not just lowered as much as possible to allow as many as many ships on the map as you can physically fit, which was a surprise to me last night, but that joke's just for us.
It's a very special joke. Jeffrey also asking, does Red Leader have a fighter squadron? Yes, Red Leader, Garvin does have a fighter squadron, and in fact all the individual members of Red Squadron have their own fighter squadrons in Operation Skyhook, because that's how they started out as individual fighter heroes. So I'm probably going to eventually work it so you bring them all together to form Red Squadron. That would be ideal. Captain Skychasers asks, what's the best difficulty to get the best experience? Well, easy is a good start if you're new to the mod, because it helps you out, slows the AI down a bit, and gives you a bit of time. Normal is completely level playing field. You and the AI have exactly the same build speed, income, that kind of thing. And then hard, the AI gets some minor bonuses. Not very strong bonuses, but some minor bonuses, and has some other slight changes to its behavior.
Ready.
And one of the things that Bob does tend to focus on a lot, which he's also been doing for Thrawn's Revenge, is making the AI performance more consistent, making them actually take advantage of mod features in a proper way, as well as other reworks that...
Form up.
So that's one of the bigger changes in Phoenix Rising as well.
Forward.
So with the new Galactic Conquests that are going to be coming with the beta version, do you want to give a quick run through of what some of those are going to be?
Sure. So there's going to be a full set of kind of sandbox Galactic Conquests. Now those are the kind of Phoenix Rising specialty to a certain extent. They begin in 18 BBY, so that immediately after the formation of the new order, and you can start out with some basically Clone Wars tech and go through all the way. Yeah, got to drop that in there, and go through all the way to later periods with tech up to basically Yuuzhan Vong era. Now the those are currently separated by galactic region. So there's like a northern outer rim, southern outer rim, mid rim, and core worlds, and hut space as a separate one. Hut space is pretty cool because it's a very low economy region, and you have to rely on some of your more esoteric units, set up freighter routes, that kind of thing. Then outside of that, we have historical campaigns. So there's Skyhook. We have Road to Coruscant, which is a very small Galactic Conquest. So if you're having very big performance problems with the mod, which some people might have, especially while the beta hasn't been completely ironed out, Road to Coruscant's a good start. That's a 21-planet Galactic Conquest where you're the Rebels or the Empire trying to take Coruscant after Izzard has taken command of the Empire. We have other historical campaigns as well. There's the Thrawn campaign, the classic Thrawn campaign, which has a somewhat similar layout to Thrawn's Revenge Thrawn campaign, but slightly different. So there's some different emphasis, slightly different timelines going on, and obviously we have slightly different unit roster, so there's some different options there. And we also have an Imperial Civil War, Imperial Mutiny, technically, Imperial Mutiny campaign, where we have a number of the warlords, such as Delvadus and so on, show up in various forms. Those later era ones are very much work in progress and are lacking a lot of the units and groundwork that's really needed to get those to a state that I want them to be in anyway.
And I think we talked a little bit last time about how one of the focuses you were going to have a little bit more in the future would be getting the CSA, or the Corporate Sector Authority, as a playable faction. Is that something that is going to be included in the beta, or is that going to be something that is a bit more down the road?
The CSA will actually be playable in the sandbox campaigns. They're going to be in a very fractured state. They won't have the proper starting forces. They won't have the proper buildable units, but I probably will leave them in as playable and allow them to be messed with and see how people feel about their current state, which is probably going to be they're broken and bad. So that's where the CSA are, but definitely they're probably the next big faction that need to be sorted out. Sergey is asking when is the mod coming? The beta, as I was saying, this should be coming this weekend, maybe Monday, depending on how much time I have. The actual release of the mod is when I am done, because it is currently just me working on the mod, really, along with any help from third parties.
Chandler.
Indeed. Jacob is asking if I would consider giving the rebels a non-ion cannon based orbital bombardment. I've thought about it, but in Phoenix Rising, we only allow turbo laser-based bombardments for ships armed with heavy turbo lasers. The Rebels mostly just have medium turbo lasers on their ships, whereas we allow ion cannon bombardments from medium ion cannons. So if we move to a turbo laser bombardment for the Rebels, it would either be weaker than the Imperial one, which is possible, or it would be quite difficult to deal with, to actually set off without having very specific ships in orbit.
I believe there was... I get a load game error when I get into the later game on Operation Skyhook. Is this a known bug? So I think he is probably asking about the general Empire at War save game or save load issue. I'm assuming that's what you're mentioning, Ryan, or that's Ryan. So that is actually an engine bug that is affecting pretty much every mod at this point. It is something that Petroglyph is looking into, though it is not something that mods can fix directly ourselves. So in the meantime, most mods are just trying to deal with it by stripping out as much as we can to decrease the RAM load when you're loading. And then hopefully in the not too distant future, Petroglyph will be able to put out a patch and then it won't be an issue anymore. Although that would only apply to the Steam version. So far, Petroglyph hasn't been able to put out any patches for non-Steam versions of Empire at War, which is unfortunate, but the option is there, and it does go on sale quite often. I've actually been thinking, since the initial patches went out in September, that I'd try to just grab a couple extra game keys off of Steam and maybe do some giveaways on some streams or something for people who may not have the Steam version. So, because we plan to do a lot of multiplayer matches with Thrawn's Revenge coming up, and I just want to, I guess, push the Steam version of Empire at War as the way of the future.
I mean, it has the multiplayer support, which is a big deal. I've had a lot of fun times playing Phoenix Rising multiplayer in Skirmish. Phoenix Rising multiplayer in Skirmish has been actually very carefully rebalanced compared to how it was previously. I did a lot of testing with quite a skilled strategy player who helped me a lot with getting that ironed out. And Captain Skychaser is asking about the CSA. CSA is the Corporate Sector Authority. They are basically a corporate-based faction, and in Phoenix Rising, they're going to have some very specific mechanics around that. So one of the things that you'll see, I believe it's currently only implemented in Hut Space, but they have a special kind of like shareholder directs board mechanic whereby you need to complete certain like quarterly goals. So every 12 weeks your performance is evaluated. And if you perform sufficiently well, you'll be given leaders, you'll be given new executive officers who have particular skills. So the more money you make, the more the CSA is inclined to push towards military expansion, and you'll get exos who give you boosts to military production. Whereas if you fail to advance financially, you'll be pushed towards exos who have infrastructure economic bonuses. So that helps really differentiate the faction from the Empire and Rebels, who have quite a straightforward hero system.
Right, I'm actually really looking forward to that particular system. We can check out after this battle. I'll just move the camera up a bit because the Corporate Sector Authority is present in this GC to some extent. It's not, I think it's like four planets they have in this, but we can just check out their planets up there. And Alexander's asking, what does the white dots in the unit icon stand for? So those are
Your orders?
basically like rank chevron type things.
Bombers at the ready.
So
I should be there any moment
the
now.
more little pips it has, the higher stats. We can check that out as well.
Standing by. We're
So I think
going
that
in.
is reflected in the unit cards too. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, though.
Nope, that's correct. So, for example, those are the Y-wings you have selected, as I see it there, with the single pip. Those are the BTL S1 Y-wing, and then a number of the Y-wings you have spawning from your units are the BTL S3 Y-wing, which are a more advanced starfighter bomber. This applies to pretty much every class of units in the mod. Everything is upgradable. Even the mighty Independence class that Corey has looming over the Empire there, you can upgrade that to an MC-80A Independence class, which has about double the power. What I'm actually working on currently starfighters, for example, have 8 levels of upgrade. I'm working on reducing that to make the upgrades more meaningful and help increase performance, because the main reason the mod has performance issues is that we have so many different upgrades to all these units. So you can have 8 different variants of bombers, 8 different variants of each fighter, and that can slow things down a lot. So by cutting that down and making it more meaningful, it'll hopefully make the gameplay experience better for everybody.
Alright, so it seems like we've got things pretty well handled here. I think the VSD there is the largest ship they have in the system. These stations, while large, aren't... are they armed at all? I think they are a little bit armed. Yeah, you can see it shooting. I don't know why I asked that. Not really a threat to our fleet, so we should be able to move on from here pretty quickly. And that'll unite all of our territory from basically Yavin over to the Mon Calamari area.
Yeah, the Golem 1 can basically take out frigates and maybe a cruiser on a good day, but otherwise, I kind of want to buff the Golems quite a bit, maybe give them a range that's higher than they should have for their weapon loadout, because currently they do have the blast ability, which essentially gives them a higher range weapon for a short period of time, but they are quite weak.
Question for Corey. I know this is probably never going to happen, but would it be possible to get the First Order as a playable faction throughout events? So no, the First Order is only part of the Disney canon, and it doesn't fit in Legends at all. It's a completely separate storyline. So stuff like the First Order and the Resistance doesn't really fit in the new canon in the same way that the Empire of the Hand, or I guess the Empire of the Hand is one of the things that might come back in the future, but all the Imperial factions don't really fit in the new canon. So separate universe.
Right. Anthony mentioned that some of the unit names are perhaps a little lore-breaking, such as the Nebulon frigate variants and the ISD Mark IV. Well, yes. So a lot of the variants that we have in the mod are conjectural. So ultimately, the whole idea for the mod essentially came about because the X-Wing line goes all the way up to like J5, T65 J5, and you see a lot of other variants of units that can be explained quite easily by just having different mark numbers on them, essentially. And by doing this kind of conjectural work, you can push stuff up so that, say, the YT-1300 freighter there can eventually be upgraded to be approximately equal to the Millennium Falcon in power. So these conjectural things are very much there for you to produce the kind of fleet you want. So if you really do want to focus on units that the original factions never really focused on, you can do that and push them further than they were in canon. But we do have all of the canonical variants as well, like the ISD 1 and 2. The 3 and 4 are conjectural variants that the Empire may have produced had they been able to do that kind of research later on in the timeline.
And Abgar's asking if I'm going to play as the Empire. I already did a playthrough as the Empire in this Galactic Conquest. I think around Christmas, so if you check on the channel, that should still be there, and it's pretty much up to date with what's in this one. In the future, with the other Galactic Conquest out, I'll probably wait a little bit for them to be a little bit more fleshed out a bit later in the beta phase, but I will definitely go through and play some of them probably as the Empire as well. So yeah, it shouldn't be too far back if you just check the playlist on the channel. And code user asked if Bob made the explosions himself.
I did not. They're actually
Yes, Commander.
some of
Radiant voice to
Megabalter's
intercept.
first particles. Some of the first particles he made when he really got into particle editing. I actually need to do a performance pass on them because they're the first ones he made. They have significantly more particles than they need in most cases, which is why
Warm up.
it's one of the reasons why tactical battles start to slow down quite rapidly with large numbers of fighters because of all their laser impact particles.
Alright, so we just got this station left to do. Health is starting to drop. There is also the research or orbital shipyard over here.
Awaiting orders.
But we've got all their fighters taken care of. It's just I'll send over some of these smaller Mon Calamari ships to take that out. Oh, there's another one over here too. So you guys can split off over there, and we'll keep the Independence type going up here. Alright,
Choose your reinforcements.
so not horrible. I'm still afraid of that fleet at Raxus that is likely going to attack us at some point.
It's okay. Just get two of the MC-80 Independence class in a fleet, and you'll be fine.
Gunboat here, sir.
And you've still got 100 population cap available,
Activating
so
Yeah.
you can drop in a few other MC-80s of various types.
Alright, and I think they actually split some of them off to attack Quirmia.
Shield
So
It looked like that, yeah. It looked like they actually sneaked in and took Quemir and DMOs.
Shuttle reporting.
Calamari frigate here. Attack.
took out one of my Nebulon Bs.
Cruiser here.
How rude.
Question from Corey, have you considered doing some other games that are not Star Wars related like CNC? Yeah, so there's some other games that are coming up on the channel. You'll probably see a bit more of that. We did Angels Fall First yesterday, so that was fun. And there's some other games that are coming up pretty soon.
Coordinates received. We're moving out.
But would you say it's immersive? For example, when playing as the Rebels, do you feel like a small band of Rebels making hit and run attacks? So yeah, the one of the things Phoenix Rising does really well is get the feel of the factions pretty close, I'd say. So, while still keeping it, of course, reasonably balanced for a game. So, I think both this and the last playthrough give a pretty decent idea of that. And you can see a lot of the missions as well that work in a lot of the lore and a lot of what the factions were attempting to do at that point. Like this one is about the Death Star, obviously. But even within that, for the Imperial side, you have
Moving to destination.
the Quaimar suppression missions for the Empire. I haven't, obviously I'm not as far into the Rebel one, but the main focus is on information about the Death Star
At your command. Targeting.
and that kind of thing. So there's a lot. If you even just want to learn more about the lore, then playing the game does give a good idea for that. So I would say
Attack.
it scores high in the immersive column. There we go.
So Jacob's asking why there's no garrisons for shipyards. Well, the space colony, the large kind of six-pointed structure in the middle there, which is a level 5 on column X, quite difficult to beat down. That does have a minor fighter bomber garrison. Shipyards don't have any garrisons because they are purely construction facilities. And in general, we try and avoid giving too many free units where possible. So on ground, you'll have a half platoon of units, usually, from each kind of structure you have. But in space, we tend to limit it to requiring
Frigate awaiting orders.
an actual orbital presence to truly defend the planet. I do want to look into... So one of my pet hates about like Empire at War a bit and RTS in general is destroying buildings is really boring. It's not a fun thing to do very often. And that's something I really want to look into making more interesting. I know, for example, in TR you added turrets to the ground structures. That makes it that does make it a little more interesting. But I want to do some more stuff around that. See if I can make fighting giant immovable lumps of health points a little more interesting.
Yeah.
The main issue with things like the level 5 space colony is like it's such a lump of health points because it's really just designed to slow an attacking fleet down so that you can get more reinforcements in from your pool. It's not necessarily designed to actually fight off an attack, really.
Alright, so we are getting attacked by Darth Vader, who's probably going to kill us all, but this is the Corporate Sector territory, So these nice yellow planets. So Bonnerton, and then in TR there's like Eddy 4 and stuff, which I assume are some of the planets that would be in some of the larger GCs. But here we have Bonnerton, Kala 7, Orin 3, and Amud. But yeah, so Northeast, very corporate-minded faction, and I'm just delaying Darth Vader killing us all. But let's go in. Andrew's asking about if there's a guide for the mod. There was a manual for the previous build. It does have some outdated information because obviously this is another version, but it still should give you a decent idea. In game, there's a lot of documentation as well on the unit cards, but that can be, especially at first, a little bit overwhelming to try to navigate that. So you might want to give a quick skim to the manual, even if you don't read it like in depth or anything.
Yeah, definitely. If you get the old 1.2 version, the manual can be helpful from that. Otherwise, I have put in a bunch of tooltips, as Corey said, and some hints in the Droid Advisor hints have been rewritten to be completely TR specific. So, sorry, PR specific. Oh my god. This is the problem now. Mixing these mods up is going to be my bane for the next 6 months or something, probably.
Ready, sir. There they are.
That's my goal.
We're going in. Ground target locked. Ready for command, sir.
All right. Well, it's both two letters, both end in R. It's understandable.
Reporting. T2B over. Course plotted. Artillery online. Ready for
Alright,
action.
I'm gonna try to. These units are all gonna die anyways, so I'm gonna try to take them out when they're coming out of the.
Destroyed.
Ready for attack.
Unit destroyed. Unit.
Do the dropships currently shoot?
I forget. I think some of them do. I think like some of the Rebel ones do, but I don't think the Imperial ones do.
Okay, so
Mostly because the Titan only really has 2 forward-facing laser cannons. I know they currently reveal a huge amount of the map in terms of fog of war, which you'll probably like when you have to use them for that. But I do need to look into adding probably just some light repeating blaster turrets to the base of them, because that would help with situations like this. Even then, I mean, even in this case, I don't think you have good enough quality units to really stop the Empire. When they want to invade, they will invade. So
We've secured a build
Moving into that area, sir.
basically the only thing I can hope for here is that the units in the path will be enough to stop them long enough for the artillery to do at least a little bit of damage, but I think even then it's not going to go super well.
as you can see, Skyhopper's not very effective.
Unit
Yeah.
destroyed.
Jeffrey's asking, what are the Imperial hover tanks? These hover tanks are the Firehawk, S1A Firehawk tank. They're basically our Imperial tank, like repulsor tank poster child, that the Empire never really used that much in Legends. They used them a bit, and there was a few relatively famous commanders who used them. But in Phoenix Rising, they're quite impressively powerful due to their speed and range of weapons, though the AI isn't doing a great job of using them right now.
Destination received.
There was another question a little bit higher. Besides the obvious heroes like Vader and Palpatine, who are some of the other heroes for the Empire? Well, again, if you just go back and check out the Imperial playthrough, there was a lot of those being used. So I don't remember a few of them offhand, but if Bob wants to list some of them, but
You've pretty much got the entire, like, so if you remember in A New Hope, the Death Star
command
meeting
staff.
table. Yeah, we basically have the entire command staff for the Death Star. So you've got Tarkin, you've got Motti, you've got Yularen, all those kind of folks.
All weapons loaded.
And the slow speed in ground battles is we've adopted a scale speed. So everything moves at relative scale, and that means that a number of units move relatively slowly. And I think it's one of the things that makes ground combat a little more tolerable in Phoenix Rising, because it means that the AI can't just kite away all the time unless they are using explicitly fast repulsor lift vehicles. And it also tends to make everything feel a lot more chunky and less responsive, yes, but from a kind of like realism standpoint, it makes everything feel a little more grounded, I think.
I get it, 'cause it's on ground.
We've lost a build pad.
Haha. It's the MPTL, looks a little weird because that is the MPTL variant, which is technically derived from
Force Commander?
Force Commander. Yeah, it's the version which doesn't deploy. And then when you upgrade it, it can deploy. And it's a little faster and it has better weaponry capabilities. Currently, it's very, very weak, but it can run away a lot easier and kite a bit easier because it has the... it doesn't have to deploy. They also have quite slow reload times because I believe they have 3 loads of missiles and it's 2 minutes per reload, so it takes a while for them to reload their missiles.
Yeah. I'm hoping I can at least... Oh, that... Yeah, that's not happening. Alright. Cuckoo Gadget auto-resolve.
Power generator destroyed.
And someone's mentioning that AT-ATs seem to be pretty fast. Yes, AT-ATs are quite fast because 22-meter tall walkers, when they make a large step, can actually go quite a long distance quite quickly. I intend to probably reduce the acceleration of them, or perhaps add some downsides to snow to slow them down a little bit. But at the end of the day, they are all-terrain, so I don't want to make them too weak in scenarios where they should probably be strong.
With the Empire nearing the completion of its Death Star project, we have seen increased freighter traffic in the Outer Rim. Destroying Imperial freighter convoys will slow down their construction efforts and buy us more time against the Imperial fleet. Destroying the freighters has crashed the Imperial economy. It seems that they are diverting funds meant for the fleet to the Death Star, keeping it under construction. It should buy us breathing room to find the plans. Alright, so
okay, it looks like you coincidentally completed a mission there. I'm trying to work out how that happened. But yeah, so you wiped out some freighters.
They may have been invading the CSA. No, that's all tied to us. One of the independent planets and lost some freighters.
That would be weird. They shouldn't send any freighters. I'll have to double check that. There's some weird bugs with some of these missions. But yeah, so if you check the history log, it should show that the Empire's just lost a lot of money. Hopefully, if things are working as intended.
Yeah, that's pretty big drop right there.
Yeah, so basically what it does is literally I just wipe out the Empire's money. If you destroy their freighters, they lose their money just basically instantly. And that really slows the AI down in terms of construction.
Yeah, so we should I think I'm going to just retreat from Turkana. I'm going to try to send Akbar's fleet. I'll check what's in it, because we haven't seen what's in it. We'll either send it to Turkana and take out these Star Destroyers, or we'll send them into Raxus and take out Raxus. So, yeah, so it's not a campaign per se, but much like the Thrawn's Revenge and AOTR GCs, there is a lot more story to it. There's probably more story to it than either of those mods, actually, especially 2.15 TR.
Yeah, with Phoenix Rising and this the specific campaign, it's very easy for me to set up very specific missions like this. So I'm not going to pretend, it's relatively easy. Our sandbox campaigns have randomized missions, so those aren't quite as story driven, but you get some random options there. Jeffrey's asking about what's the point of fleet commanders like Akbar if you can't use them with Pathfinder. Well, it kind of forces you to organize your fleets in a better way. On the one side, but on the other hand, I am actually one of the things that will probably happen during the beta period is I will move commanders back to having their own units. It will mean they'll cost a hell of a lot more to upgrade when they change command, but they will probably gain those commands back so that you can use them as Pathfinder units, which will probably make everyone a lot happier, especially Corey.
Mm-hmm. I do like Pathfinders. Alright, hopefully I have enough time to... Yeah, let's slow this down a little bit so I can issue more orders before being attacked.
Yeah, I recommend most players to start the GC off paused and probably reduce the game speed for the first time they play the mod, because the AI can act quite quickly, and there's a lot of very fast hyperlanes that mean you can get jumped on very quickly.
The home one type is called Independence type in this mod, and you can build more of them, so that's one of the things we're going to be going for. But I do want to check Shipyard 3. Oh, hold on. We are still building more of the shipyards there. I'm going to throw in another level 4. So I think that will help. And...
Yeah, so to construct the Independence, you will need a level 5 colony and then level 5 shipyards.
And I know it seems like it's lagging a lot right there. That's just because I slowed down the game speed. Alright, so... Is there a scout option? I think I asked you this last time for Rebels.
Yes, if you build the basic barracks building, you will get a bottom spy for
Right.
150 credits. They're not as obvious as the TR one. I kind of want to change the icon at some point. They need an overlay to show they're a scout.
Hmm. Yes, sensor nodes are not what I'm used to. I built one reflexively in the last one.
If you bring a decent ground commander, each ground commander has a fog of war reveal multiplier relative to their rank. So if you bring a general, they'll reveal most of that.
Yeah, I'll probably start building
Hint,
more things like provinces and other ships as we get a little bit deeper in. When we're a bit more established, I'm mostly just attacking whatever seems like an easier opportunity right now. We're pretty early in right now. But
An excellent tactic.
It looks like you have a mighty GR-75A transport in your fleet, ready to fire its 2 lasers at the enemy.
I like to be inclusive.
At least you got Akbar, though.
Here's a Providence.
Providences are pretty insane. Currently, I might have to deal with them a little bit, but currently the Providence Mark III, for example, there has extremely powerful quad turbo lasers and a huge variety of missiles that make it devastating against fighters and cruisers. It can just about stand up to a Star Destroyer if you give it some support, but if it doesn't have support, it will probably lose to most Star Destroyers if the AI, has any kind of sense, which it never does. But you can try.
No, you don't leave me. I want to destroy you.
Open fire.
Picking up signals.
You got to build those CC-7700s.
I have contact. Ready. Affirmative.
No.
It's okay if they're caught in a
Ion
tractor beam.
cannons.
They can't actually. If you catch them in a tractor beam, they can't escape. They can't retreat once they're in a tractor beam. And a lot of units in Phoenix Rising have tractor beams. So
Yeah, I
the
thought that was
Home
catching
One
us
type
in
is
one.
Complying with orders.
Yeah, so only the Victory escaped there, which is
Yeah.
nice. So you got the Star Destroyer in the tractor beam, so you're good.
Alright, I'm going to speed it back up a little bit.